Welcome back to Talking Racine, and we've got quite a discussion going on here tonight. Joining me is Jim Spodek, the producer of the show, Mr. Ken Lumpkin, the social conscience of the show, George Meyer, our visiting expert, and I'm Dr. Jorgen, your host. And we're going to be talking about Machinery Row, which only just today, the Journal Times ran an article titled "An Ode to Machinery Row," and they're really kind of driving the last spike in the coffin. Machinery Row, if you remember, was a $65 million project that was announced on June 10th of 2014. Who's got 2114? Did you put this paper together?
Yeah. Okay, a slight mistake.
Yeah, so this happened 100 years from now. Is what
It may take that long.
Yeah, I think we're well on our way.
Say, don't we wish this was the end of it? You got $65 million involved with it, and the city's already got $4.5 million.
$4.5 million.
Believe me, it's not. It hasn't ended.
Right.
Our troubles are just beginning.
So anyway, it was announced in June. That's 2.5 years ago, basically, that this project was announced. And now it's finally meeting its demise. It's something that many people predicted from the very beginning, and unfortunately, those predictions appear to have been correct.
I'm just going to disagree with that. You know what's going to demise is.
You're disagreeing with what?
That it's come to an end. The demise may be of Rodney Blackwell. Is that the guy's name?
Right.
That part may be, and believe me, there's going to be aldermen in there, a mayor, and some
So
city staff
think
members.
that another developer is going to...
No, they're going to be covering the tracks. That's right. They're going to try and get somebody else in here. This is not dead. They're going to be continuing to work on it from a different angle and get deeper involved in it and put more, just like Waterloo did. Remember?
Well, I think the horse is dead. That doesn't mean they're going to stop whipping it.
You got to remember, Mayor John Dickert, State Rep Corey Mason, Robin Voss, Speaker of the Assembly, and at the time it was Jim Ladwick, County Exec. These guys are going to be covering their hind end because
they're not going to say, "Oh, we made a mistake."
Yeah, and this is a big mistake.
No.
Yeah.
This is not a little mistake. This was a big mistake.
Well, there were a lot of forewarnings about this
Absolutely.
particular developer. I mean, there were red flags all over this project, and everybody kind of poo-pooed them, and they were so enthralled with the idea. And it's a glorious idea. We'll have this beautiful riverfront, and they made references to Milwaukee and how well that looks up there, and how much commerce is going on. So they got enthralled, but unfortunately they came up with a partner who just did not follow through. Yeah. And so now, like you think that they're going to be looking for another one.
I'm saying they're not done. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, if they said, okay, the deal fell through, we're done. We're not going to foreclose on the property. We're just going to leave it where it is. Take our $4.5 million loss, and swallow it. And then we'll continue to collect taxes on it, and let's suppose it's $70,000. I'm not sure what it would be, but it's probably in that range. And we'll let Jane Nicolai over at the Racine County Treasurer's Office let her pay us the $90,000.
So you're assuming that he's going to pay the taxes on it if we
He's not paying the taxes on it. The city's already talking about foreclosing on it, and that we would now assume the tax liability. And which Alderman Sandy Widener had questioned. She questioned Tom Friedel. He gave a very no-answer answer. I need to review that and figure out what he said, but it was something really stupid. I'm talking about Tom Friedel was about if we foreclose on it in December, then we owe the taxes. Well, yes, if we foreclose on it, it becomes ours. That's what they're claiming, is now the taxes would fall on the city to North.
There won't be any taxes paid. The city's not going to pay taxes to itself. Ken, you look like you're sitting on a comment over there.
No, I
said the county. I said Jane Nicolai. Yeah, I got it perked up.
But my comment is that when the developer of the project, wasn't the alderman kind of forewarned that this might be the wrong road to go down?
Well, you bring up a good point. $4.5 million we loaned to financial district properties, just to get that out front. apparently an additional 200,000 in a restricted account that was constantly talked about, this restricted escrow account. 200,000 was going to go in there. Now, there were warnings. Sandy Widener, Eddie Deal at the time came in and said, you know, there were some lawsuits out there on Blackwell. Now, this is early on. This is 6 months after the development, and there was we were going to extend this loan. We're going to, turn over this property, and those two aldermen brought up some real questions. I just want to go back because I looked at some things and I thought, well, is anybody how does this example misappropriated funds from an account? He had personal charges, 14,371 for an all-inclusive family vacation to the Bahamas, $11,283 for multiple stays at luxury hotels, Chicago, Florida, and Augustine, Georgia, $7,500 for gas and personal vehicles. That was on an American Express card from the company. They're suing him for that. There's 4 lawsuits at the time. Greg Helding, Q.A. Shakur's statement was, these lawsuits involve the breakup of business partnerships and don't appear to involve any of the Blackwell's real estate developments. Now, I'm going to turn it over to you guys, but just remember that statement.
Just go back and just connect a few dots here. Financial District Properties, how is that connected with Rodney Blackwell?
He is the CEO, owner. Him and a guy named Jim Bowman.
All right, so when the Financial District Properties took over this property, we're talking about Machinery Row, that's actually Rodney Blackwell.
Correct.
That's okay, got it.
And he actually got a check from the city for $4.5 million to buy this property from us.
Right.
Now, I've heard mentions of kickbacks. What is that about?
Well, we're going to play a clip. And, this is a clip I think that, we just discovered. And we're going to play a clip, and then we're going to come back and discuss it.
Speak.
Thank you.
An additional time.
Thank you. A little over a year ago, the then Alderman of the 15th District raised some concerns about his inability to get information from the administration. There is a lot of things that happen behind closed doors with this development, and I think that the council needs to be aware of those. Mr. Blackwell borrowed money from the city of Racine, cut a different deal with the sellers of the property, set up an escrow account for him to draw money out of over the last year and a half. I had no idea that I should even have asked the question of the administration if something like this would have happened. When this came to light, this is where, the city administrator kept saying to us, the council, well, he's paying his interest payments. He paid his interest payments with money that he took from the sellers that he renegotiated after we loaned him the $4.5 million. So in essence, we are paying that because we loaned him that money. I want us to have our eyes wide open about what kind of a developer we're giving another extension to. He didn't even have the respect for this city or this administration that negotiated with him or this council to come before us within that first 4 months when his extension had expired. This developer is not going to deliver. Thank you.
Okay, well, that was an interesting segment. $450,000 he managed to squeeze out of this system. He was supposed to buy this property for $4.5 million, and he ended up renegotiating with the people who owned the property and telling them that he needed a 10% rebate from them.
Not only did Sandy Widener talk about it, we had sources tell us that.
Just go back on it. He bought the property for we gave him $4.5 million
to buy the property.
To buy the property. Obviously, it didn't cost that much because $450,000 was taken out of that $4.5 million.
It ended up being about $4,100,000 roughly.
All right. So all right. So was the purchase of the property, and that's the kickback you're talking about. The special fund.
The special
$450,000 in a special fund, and what was the purpose of that?
Now, this is, again, a source information, but he talked about that would be used for
Site cleanup is one thing I heard mentioned.
site cleanup, certain things that would have to be done on the property. And you got to remember, these buyers want to, or these sellers want to sell. They're backed up. The deal's cut. They've got signed paperwork. Now they may not have had the. Who knew what when is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You've got aldermen that agreed to loan $4.5 million. You've got sellers who sell for $450,000 less than what was agreed upon.
Right.
So if Jim and Ken
Wow.
own property, and you and I, me being the city, and you being Rodney Blackwell or any developer, decide that together we're going to develop something on their property, okay? I lend you the money. Specifically, I lend you $4.5 million to pay these guys for the property that's going to be used.
Right.
Okay, so you get the money, and then what do? You go and you talk to them, and you say, well, I got $4.5 million to buy you guys property, but I think I'd like to buy it for $4,100,000. And if you don't go along with that plan, well, I'm not interested in buying your property. You maybe got some back taxes you need to pay. You got some properties that you're worried about that you owe money on. So you get pressured into settling, and you end up with a $450,000 little chunk of change.
Is that the kind of way it
Yeah.
worked? So,
That's
so in other words,
exactly how it
he put
worked.
the squeeze on the sellers
Right.
and said that's more than what you'll ever
Correct.
get anyplace else.
Correct.
So you sell it for me for 4.1, and that's what. So that is kind of a kickback.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shakedown too.
A shakedown, I think, would be more appropriate.
All right. So now the 450,000, is that monitored at all by the city?
Well, this is where, where we don't have all the facts, but we've certainly got some, we've got some tips.
We got
and
enough to know that there's something smells awful funny.
Right, right. And what I think we need to,
Because that's still taxpayers' money.
absolutely.
The 450,000.
It's all taxpayers' money.
Yeah. Now some of it we know where that went. That went to the seller.
Correct. And those
But the
sales,
$450,000, we should, if that's a kickback the way we're describing it, that's illegal, and the city finance, the council, the finance.
well, there's a
people,
lot of people there's a lot of questions to be asked from a lot of people. Who knew what when? That's what I'm. Here's what I was told, that if sellers obviously scream bloody murder. Hey, I got a contract or an option on my property, and you're coming back and saying it's going to go for less. Who knew in the city? Who knew that this was going on? We've got a clip here of Sandy telling the Common Council what happened, and nothing's done.
Yeah.
Not only
Yeah.
nothing's done, QA Shakur, and they talk about glowing how we're going to move forward and hope this development works out.
Alderman Shakur, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not disagreeing with what's been said, but I tell you what, I don't want to lose $9 million or $65 to $80 million over the situation. If there's another, if we keep the LLC in place, if Rodney don't work out, Mr. Blackwell don't work out, we can go a different route. There is still hope here. But I tell you what, to vote no on this, that's a bad thing for us to do, because we need the tax base. We need to expand it. And for us to vote this down, that's not going to be good. I think in the long run, even though things have been working out the way we want them to, a no vote would be devastating.
Motion has carried. Thank you very much. 742-16 has carried.
Well, the thing is, when you're talking about a $65 million project, I mean, that's a huge number, and everybody's like really impressed, and $450,000 disappeared. Well, it seems like chump change in the context of
right.
$65 million. But it's close to $500,000 for nothing.
One of the questions I also have: where's the escrow? Who is in charge of that escrow account? If it was restricted, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Somebody has to have some oversight.
Is there any way that we can do a open records request for that?
Funny you should mention that. There'll be one going in. By the time you come back, we will have put in an open records request for Machinery Row. And some of the things we're looking for is the original contract between the city and FDP, any revisions or replacements for that contract, all records relating to the escrow account that was created, record of any and all payments made by Rodney Blackwell or FDP to the city of Racine in the last 36 months, legal descriptions of any machinery rural properties, any and all payments made to the city of Racine by FDP to Rodney Blackwell, and not to mention all of the money that Racine has given to him. So
That sounds
Well,
like a
yeah.
good list to me.
yeah,
That'd
we
be
want
nice
to
to get.
want to see what's going on.
See where the money went.
We have reason to suspect that there maybe is some leakage financially, and we want to know where it went. So anyway, that's going to close up our episode for this evening. Thanks everybody for participating, and thanks for watching. We'll see you again.